Good evening and welcome into the Big Hit. I am Eric Kormos. Tonight we're going to take a look around NBA action, including hot rumors coming out of Los Angeles that Kobe Bryant might be in his final days as an LA Laker as they're looking to ship him out via trade. Then we will do an NCAA basketball season preview. Follow that up by taking a look at the Pittsburgh Steelers' loss at the New York Jets this past weekend, which knocked them out of first place in the AFC North. And we will wrap up with a look at the disappointing weekend for IUP after they lost to Gannon over the weekend. All that and next. Stay tuned on the Big Hit. Welcome back to the Big Hit. We're going to talk about NBA action here in Crashing the Boards with Darnell Turner and John Williams. I am Eric Kormos. And gentlemen, we begin on the West Coast in Los Angeles. Some rumors coming out of LA about Kobe Bryant possibly being traded out of Los Angeles. A hot rumor being the New York Knicks. Do you envision that as a possibility for Kobe Bryant this season?
I think this is ridiculous. There's no way the Los Angeles Lakers are going to trade Kobe Bryant. It's just he bleeds purple and gold. He's already come out and said that there's no way that he will ever want to go anywhere. And I think the Lakers would be stupid to trade him. He's the only thing that's keeping that franchise relevant at this point in time. And I don't see him going anywhere, even if it's to a championship contender. And even a team like the Knicks, who they don't look like a contender to me right now. And Kobe's last few years, I don't think he would get a better situation to win a ring in New York than he would in LA. And it's going to be a tough last couple of years for Kobe Bryant because the Lakers just don't have enough talent right now. So, but I don't think it would be a smart decision to trade him. He needs to retire as a Laker.
I agree. I mean, no, you do not trade Kobe Bryant. That's like the dumbest thing you could possibly do. I mean, he got traded from Charlotte, like in the lottery when he came, and look what happened to Charlotte. I mean, they just signed a 2-year extension for like $48 million. I mean, it's not smart. I mean, Kobe, like you said, bleeds purple and gold. And, I mean, yeah, they're terrible right now. But, I mean, once Julius Randle comes back, who knows what can happen? He's still got 2 years on that contract, that 2-year contract extension, so who knows what can happen.
Yeah, Lakers are struggling off to a 1-5 start to the season. Now, gentlemen, we switch gears, talking about the Eastern Conference and the Toronto Raptors, off to a great start at 6-1, behind strong play from Kyle Lowry and Jonas Valanciunas. Is it time that we take the Raptors seriously?
I'm not sure about this quite yet. I think they're a very good team. I have them possibly top 4, top 5, but I think when you look at the Raptors being one of the top teams in the league, as far as championship contenders, I don't think they're there yet. They're 25th in rebound and 26th in assists. So once it gets to postseason and they can't get out in the open court and run as much as they want to, and they have the teams keep them in the half court, I think they're going to struggle to score a little bit, and they need to rebound the ball. Valanciunas, 7-footer, he needs to be better on the glass, only averaging 7 rebounds a game. They've had a hot start to start the season, and if they can keep it up, they're going to be a dangerous team come postseason, but I don't think they're there as far as being a championship contender yet.
Yeah, I mean, no, I don't think it's time to take them serious. They haven't played anybody yet. I mean, they played, the best team they played was the Thunder, and no one's there. Like, I could suit up today and play for them. I mean, they're running out of players. Washington's like maybe the best team they probably played. I mean, they're not someone I take seriously just yet. I mean, they're still a young team, and it's the East. It's the East. You can win 35 games and get a playoff spot. So no, not yet. I mean, give it like maybe 10, 15 more games, and if they win at least 9 of them, then we start taking them serious. But till then, no, not yet.
Yeah, it's a good point you make about the Eastern Conference. It's definitely the weaker of the 2 conferences in the NBA. So that gives some legitimacy to the Raptors, but let's see what they do from here. Looking at last year's playoff teams, there's some that are off to a very sluggish start to this season. The Thunder, the Spurs, Hawks, Pacers, and Hornets are all under 500 to start the season. Looking at these teams, is there a reason that any of them should be worried moving forward?
I don't think any team needs to be worried. It's still very early in the season. And then if you look at the Spurs, last night they got a big win over the Clippers. So I think it's still early on. You still have to see more. The season just started, so there's still time. But I will say this about the Thunder. You just hope that they don't dig themselves a big enough hole that when Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant come back that they can't make the playoffs because the West is so competitive. You know, a team with 48 wins missed the playoffs last year. So you hope that they don't dig themselves a big enough hole that they can't get out of.
Yeah. I say the team that needs to worry about something is the Hornets. because, I mean, they have a decent squad there, and they're losing to teams that they should be, like the Knicks, I believe they lost to.
The Lakers.
The Lakers? How do you lose to the Lakers? And then, let's see, and they're the teams they do beat, they have beaten, they're barely by a point or two. So it's they have a decent team. Lance Stevenson just came there, and he's not really producing yet. I haven't seen anything. And it's they have Gerald Henderson, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, Stevenson, Kimba, and Cody Zeller. I mean, these are some decent ball players here. So it's and they're not over 500 yet. It's it's time to wake up.
Yeah, Lance Stevenson, the free agent acquisition for the Hornets, the big one from their offseason. He's off to a slow start. I think that's hurt the whole entire team. Gentlemen, looking at this rookie class that came into the NBA this season, very heralded rookie class, they were pretty much all off to a slow start. Jabari Parker leads all rookie scorers, and he's not even at 12 points per game. Looking at Parker and the other rookies, are there any that you can see turning around their season and really showing improvement this year?
I think Jabari has a big chance to turn it around, and I think Jason Kidd's starting to use him differently, starting to get on a fast break. You start seeing him in the post more, and he's driving the ball to the basket. He's not shooting a lot of jump shots. But I think coming into this draft, a lot of people knew that these rookies were projects and that they would take time. You look at somebody like Wiggins, Aaron Gordon, Dante Exum, they're all struggling, and I think it's going to take them time to get used to the NBA game. Now, a couple of rookies that I think are playing really well that aren't getting a lot of recognition are Nerlens Noel. You look at Alfred Payton and Orlando. He's averaging 6.5 assists a game, a steal and a half a game. You know, a lot of everybody's talking about the offense and the points they're putting up, but they've had an impact on the defensive end as well. KJ McDaniels, who's a second-round pick for Philadelphia, I think it's a steal in the draft. He's second among rookies in blocks at a shooting guard position. I think that's huge. Shooting 42% from three, which is second among rookies too. So I think the defensive impact of the rookies have been huge. You know, it's not all about points, but the offense will come, but the defense is there.
Yeah. I mean, I would say it's still early, like you said. It's still early. They just need time to adjust. In a matter of, probably another 10 or 15 more games, they'll start getting a rhythm. I mean, Dougie McBuckets in Chicago isn't really stroking like he should be from the deep ball. And I think just a matter of time once they get their feet settled in there. And Napier learns how to control the ball. I think he's been turning over the ball a lot. And Jabari Parker, he's like you say, he's averaging almost 11 points per game. Once they get a good rhythm in there, I think everyone should be good, at least decent. But like you said, it's a working project. It's just a matter of time. So I wouldn't worry too much. But everyone's going to get filtered out.
Yeah, these rookies are learning that it's a man's game in the NBA. It's not against boys like high school and college. You have to be developed physically and mentally to survive in this league. Well, gentlemen, that's it for tonight. Thank you very much. For Darnell Turner and John Williams, I'm Eric Cormos. Stay tuned. Up next, the preseason look at the NCAA college basketball season.
It's hard to explain. It just became home. There are hundreds of majors and programs, bachelor's degrees to PhDs, small classes and faculty that really get to know you. Amazing internships and everywhere, programs that help to find a job that is right for you. It's what IUP is about, a commitment to your success. See it for yourself. Visit us, Indiana University of Pennsylvania. Find your success.
Welcome back to The Big Hit, where we turn our attention to the upcoming college basketball season with some bold predictions and prognostications with our distinguished roundtable of experts featuring Kyle Condor, William Gaucher, and Vaughn Dalzell. I am Eric Cormos. And gentlemen, we begin in the ACC Conference, a perennially very strong conference who now has added the Louisville Cardinals to their repertoire. Is this a better conference with the Louisville Cardinals?
Oh, absolutely, Eric. And before I begin, I just wanted to say you kind of intimidated me there with all those big words. I don't know how I'm going to be able to follow that up.
More than 2 syllables, Kyle. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Anyway, yes, this is definitely going to be a much stronger conference than it has been in recent years. I believe it's since 2010, no ACC team has reached the Final Four. With the addition of Louisville, I say the chances go up big time. I mean, they were already considered the best conference in college basketball despite their lack of production in the tournament. But with Louisville now in the conference, I mean, it only gets better from there.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. You touched on that point where they had that 4-year drought now. And as we all know, Louisville has won a national championship, so I mean they've gotten to the Final Four. But last year the ACC, they had 6 teams that had gotten to the tournament, and that was second most out of all the power conferences in any conference.
It's like that every year.
Yeah, and just adding, what was it, Pitt, Syracuse, and Notre Dame last year, and now you add Louisville. I mean, Louisville knew that they were coming in since 2012, but it's going to be fun this year, really, because the ACC has been the best conference for a while now.
Yeah, I totally agree with you guys. When you add one of the best teams, they made 2 deep runs last 2 seasons. I mean, it only gets better from here with these teams. I mean, they have one of the best players in the country in Montrezl Harrell, too. So it's going to be something to look forward to when Duke and Syracuse and North Carolina, all them face off. It's going to be some great games this season.
Yeah, no doubt about that. The ACC is going to be strong, as they always are, and no doubt featuring those games pretty much every night this year on ESPN or one of the ESPN family of networks. Gentlemen, give me a player to watch, and who will take home that ACC crown at the end of this season?
Yeah, a lot of the players that are talked about in that conference are freshmen this year, but I'm going to name one that isn't a freshman, and that's Marcus Page of UNC. He's a junior this year. He saw his numbers skyrocket last year in his sophomore season. I believe he averaged 13 points a game. His field goal percentage went way up. He was taking good shots. He's only going to get better from there. And with that being said, I think UNC has the best chance at winning this conference. With upperclassmen on their team, you know, they're one of the only teams in that conference that their talent is in the upperclassmen. So I think that gives them a huge advantage over teams like Duke and Syracuse and Louisville.
Well, Kyle, I'm going to have to go down Tobacco Road, that dreadful road that those 2 teams have played, and everybody knows those 2 teams in the conference. Yeah. I'm going to say Quinn Cook for my player to watch. When you talk about championship basketball, it starts at the head coaching level, and then it comes down to your coach on the floor. And Quinn Cook has been that for this team since Kyrie Irving has left. He has been that, how would you say it, that special point guard, really. He doesn't put up big numbers, but his impact alone, him being on the floor, you just have to watch out. So now I'm going to travel back down to Tobacco Road and join you, Kyle, and I would have to say UNC. Like you had touched on it, they got their core coming back, JP Tokoto. They got Bryce Johnson and, as you said, Marcus Page. And
I know you got a little bias in there, too, because you worked for them a couple years ago, too.
Not that much, but, I mean, Roy is a good friend of mine. But no, this scandal that's going on, this academic scandal, I think that last year they had the P.J. Harrison scandal, and we saw what run that they made in the tournament. And so now they're going to turn this, I believe, into a nice product as well.
Well, if you gentlemen don't mind, I'm going back down the road again and going back to Duke.
Tobacco Road's a good road.
Because I like the freshman Jahlil Okafor. He's coming in, and he's the #1 player. He's McDonald's All-American, the MVP. They already say he's going to be a one-and-done player. I cannot wait to see this guy play. He reminds me of DeMarcus Cousins with the size he has right now. And I think Duke is the best team. I know you guys both touched on North Carolina, but I think it starts with head coaching, as you said, and he is undoubtedly the best coach in the country to me. So I think it's where it starts with him and where it starts with the #1 freshman in the country.
We all just hyped up Louisville so much, and none of us picked them.
It's going to be a battle with those 2 teams.
It's going to be close.
That last game.
Absolutely.
But I think one team that's going to be overlooked is the Virginia Cavaliers. Remember, they made a nice run last year in the NCAA tournament, also in the ACC tournament as well. So Tony Bennett's doing a very nice job in Charlottesville. Looking at the Midwest, we want to look at the Big 12 Conference. A couple marquee departures from there. Looking at Marcus Smart and #1 NBA pick Andrew Wiggins, who left Kansas early. A lot of experts are saying that the Big 12 is going to be a down conference this year because a lot of those star power players are no longer there. Is the Big 12 still a power conference in NCAA basketball?
They're still a power conference, but with the lack of stars like Andrew Wiggins, and you even had Iowa State in there last year, a team that's not normally good, and they were last year. Now they're not that great, so they're not necessarily as strong as they have been in past years, but they're obviously still a top 3 conference, definitely a power conference in college basketball. And I guess I'll get into that a little bit more when I make my prediction for player to watch.
Well, one player that nobody also touched about that left was Joel Embiid, #3 overall. But Kansas, they reloaded. They still have players that are there. Oklahoma, people forget about them. They have a nice front court. And then you also have to remember, like I always touch on, is the head coaching. Bob Huggins at West Virginia. Now, people forget that they're even over there. sometimes in the Big 12.
It's been a while since they've been doing anything.
It's been a while since they've been to the big show. But the Big 12, they'll be all right. They really will.
Yeah, I definitely think they took a little bit of a hit last year, losing Wiggins and Embiid and all that. But I mean, there's still Wayne Selton Jr., there's still Perry Ellis, still Gorgeous Nang, and they lost Melvin Ingram and DeAndre Kane last year, which were two big players. But I think the conference will be fine. I mean, it's still a power conference. It's still Kansas and Kansas State, Oklahoma, all these big schools that we love to watch. So it'll still be a power conference, but they did take a little bit of a hit, I believe.
There's some other very good teams, such as the Baylor Bears, Oklahoma State, also very capable this year.
Isaiah Austin, they lost him too, but we all know the story behind him.
So now that we've had a chance to talk a little bit about the Big 12, give me your predictions for the player to watch and also who will be the champion of the conference.
We just discussed all the players that they lost, but one player that they gained is Miles Turner. He was the #2 recruit in the nation. He's going to be a freshman at Texas this year. I think he kind of got overlooked when people were talking about Jahlil Okafor, who went to Duke, Karl Towns, who went to Kentucky. So Miles Turner is a player who joined a Texas team that's been struggling for years. I think he could turn that program around and make them very strong. Not strong enough to overcome Kansas, though. I mean, Kansas has got the leadership. Vaughn, you mentioned Wayne Selden, Perry Ellis. I mentioned how I picked UNC and the ACC to win because they have leadership, older guys on the team. That's the same reason I think Kansas is the best team in this conference.
I'm going to go with an Oklahoma player, Buddy Howell. Now, he's projected mid-first round pick, but he's come back strong for his sophomore campaign. He averaged about 14 points a game. He shot 39% from 3 points, so he's a shooter. And he also gets it done on defensive end with his steals. Now, that backcourt and mixed with that front court of Oklahoma, you must be careful because Buddy Howell, like I said, he's a shooter. And once he catches it, it's going up. So you got to watch out for him.
I like George Nang still. I just mentioned him a couple minutes ago. He had 16.7 points, 4.5 rebounds, and 3.5 assists last year with DeAndre Kane and Melvin Ingram, who was the Big 12 Player of the Year. So I like his ability and what he can do, and I think he can take over that team, be that leadership role. And I like Iowa State to win the conference because I still think they're a very good team, and I think he's going to lead them. And he could put up 20 points a game. I believe this. So
coming off that injury in the tournament, you never know.
Then with you, Vaughn, I like Iowa State. I think Fred Hoiberger's done an absolutely fantastic job there. It's his alma mater. He was born and raised also in Ames, so he's going to be there for a while. He's going to offer stability. I like what Iowa State has to offer in the Cyclones this season. Looking at the Big Ten Conference, a lot of experts are picking the Wisconsin Badgers to come out on top in that conference this season. As you know, a slew of other very capable teams with Ohio State, Michigan State, etc. Gentlemen, are one of those teams a legitimate threat to Wisconsin in the Big Ten race this year?
Not at all. Wisconsin was a contender last year to win the entire NCAA, and they're going to be again this year. And reason being is because they returned 4 or 5 starters, some of whom I'll talk about in a little bit. But when you get back an entire team that made a run last year, there's no way you're just going to fall off again. This isn't the NBA where certain players are going to have a good year this year and not a good year next year. You're playing in the same system every year, same coach, so nothing's going to change with them. They'll definitely be there. And I don't think any other team in the Big Ten is really going to contest them at all.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, Kyle. Wisconsin's a tough team. They lost a heartbreaker versus Kentucky in the Final Four, hitting the three-pointer, and Bo Ryan, he always has his troops ready to go. So, I mean, Michigan State, they lost a lot of players, as we know, Gary Harris Jr. and Adrian Payne. We can go on and on about what they have done for the program. But Tom Izzo always reloads. It doesn't matter. He doesn't need the top recruits. He doesn't need any stars. So you also have to watch out for them.
No, I agree with you guys. This is really Wisconsin's conference to lose. I don't see anyone else that can dethrone them. I mean, Michigan State lost 2 players. Michigan lost 2 players. Ohio State lost their best player in Aaron Kraft. It's going to be tough, especially when Wisconsin brought back all 4 or 5 starters, like you said, Cal. So I really feel like Wisconsin just gets better from here. There's no way they can get worse.
It's going to be interesting. Also, you look at Rutgers and Maryland now have entered the Big Ten, so it'll be interesting to see how those 2 teams fare at the end of the season in the standings. Looking at the Big Ten, a lot of very interesting players, very capable teams. Give me a player to watch, and who's going to be the champion of the Big Ten Conference?
There's plenty of players to watch in this conference, so I'm going to give you a few. And these are the starters on Wisconsin that we just talked about, the guys that are going to surround Frank Kaminsky, who I'm going to talk a lot about later. And that's Trayvon Jackson, Sam Decker, Josh Gosser. All three of those guys are upperclassmen. They're going to start on Wisconsin just like they did last year. They all ranked in the top 5 scoring on the team. So it's going to be up to those guys to help Kaminsky out and really make this team the team that we're hyping them up to be.
I'm going to go up to the only team that I believe can compete with Wisconsin, and that's Denzel Valentine for Michigan State. He only averaged about 8 points a game, but that was, of course, because of the people that have now moved on to the NBA. He's going to have to step up and be a leader. He's been there now. This is his 3rd year. Izzo's going to be looking for him to step it up truly and lead this young team.
I'm going to go with the blue and yellow of Michigan and Karis LeVert. I'm only saying this because they've lost Mitch McGarry now and Glenn Robinson III, so they need a scorer, someone to take over. Now, he's next on the list with 13 points a game behind those 2 from last year, so I feel like he's going to end up picking up the scoring load, and he's about the only chance they have to dethrone Wisconsin, who also thinks is going to win the conference, mainly because of the leadership role in which we factored in before and all the returning starters.
I think it's safe to say we both think Wisconsin is going to win the conference too, correct?
Yes.
So
Yeah, I'd go along with that as well. I think the Badgers are going to take home the title, but I think it will be a tight race, and it's going to come down to the last week of the season in the Big Ten. Stay tuned here on the Big Hit. Up next, we're going to have part 2 of our NCAA preview session. We're going to take a look at the Pac-12, the SEC, and then offer our predictions for national champions and players of the year. So stay tuned here on the Big Hit.
Here at the Big Hit, we like to be prepared, because sometimes technology doesn't always work, so we do what we can.
Hey, Sean, hit him up.
This just in, Tim Tebow just got inducted to the Hall of Fame. That's not right.
Maybe we need to prepare just a little more.
Welcome back to the Big Hit as we continue our NCAA college basketball season preview with Kyle Condor, William Gaucher, and Vaughn Dalzell. I am Eric Kormos. Now we turn our attention out west and look at the Pac-12 conference. You have both Arizona and Utah are heavily favored entering this season, and they're the only 2 teams from the Pac-12 that are currently ranked in the AP Top 25. Is there another team out west that could dethrone either of these 2 at the end of the season and take home the conference championship?
First things first, I'm surprised Utah's even in the top 25 because we all know this is Arizona's conference for the taking. With that being said, though, I think Colorado is a team that could really give both of those teams a run for their money. This is because they made noise without their top recruit in Spencer Dinwiddie last year, who's now in the NBA. And who knows what he's doing in the NBA because he's not really making much noise. But they are returning all 5 of their starters, at least the starters that were when he got hurt last year. And I really think that that is going to help them give those teams a run. I think Colorado is going to make some noise this year.
I'm going to have to go to Los Angeles, City of Angels, and I'm going to have to say UCLA. Now, they're only returning about 34% of their scoring from last year with Zach Levine and, what was his name?
Kyle Anderson.
Kyle Anderson, thank you. And their offense is young, but they're athletic. And that's the thing that you look for as somebody starts to grow and develop. So if it's going to be anybody, I feel, it will be UCLA.
Yeah, I agree with you. I also like the Bruins. I like them because they're always a high-scoring team and a very athletic team. And, I mean, it's a storied program, and they've always get recruits, and players always want to play for them. So I think the Bruins have a chance, but like you said, Kyle, it's Arizona's conference,
Yes.
and it's going to be that way for a while.
And it's also hard to trust Steve Alford in UCLA. They always have a habit of falling apart at the wrong time. Going around the conference, give me a player to watch, and then who is going to actually take home the championship.
I'm just going to hype up Colorado a little more and mention a player that not a lot of people are talking about. That's a senior on their team named Askia Booker. This guy's a highlight reel in the making. He's a guy that makes you keep watching a Colorado, Oregon game, even though you're sitting there wondering why you're watching the game. It's because of Askia Booker. This guy averages 13 points a game. He did last year. Four assists. He shoots from the outside. He takes a lot of crazy shots. He's kind of like a street baller. So it's something that kind of makes him fly under the radar. But he's a highlight reel. But I don't think anyone's going to be able to dethrone Arizona. They lost Brandon Ashley midway through last year. A lot of people didn't realize how much that hurt them. Getting him back alongside T.J. McConnell, this team's definitely the best team in the conference. I think they should win it easily.
Let's go Buffaloes. Okay, Josh Scott, he's their center. for Colorado. He averaged about 14 points a game last year and 8 rebounds. But he's projected somewhere in between the second round, so he's not that valuable yet. But to them, he's extremely valuable because he anchors that middle. So, like you said, while Booker is out there doing his thing, you might get a couple of looks down at the Scott. And I'm also with you, Kyle. Nobody's beating Arizona in this. Let's
No
just
way.
be real. Unless a massive slip-up happens, who knows? But also down there, you got Stanley Johnson, who's everybody's looking towards seeing what he can do. So
I'm excited to see Stanley Johnson, but I'm going with another Wildcat and a Whippeal product and a former Duquesne Duke. And I see Kyle doesn't like the Whippeal thing, but T.J. McConnell, he was a former Duquesne Duke, transferred to Arizona, averaging 8 points and 5 assists last year. He was a big part of that offense. And, I mean, he lost a little bit with Aaron Gordon, the departure of him and everything, but they're going to be a dangerous team. And as we said earlier, we're all in agreement that the Wildcats
Side note to the McConnell thing, his uncle, Tom McConnell, is the women's coach at IUP, a school we're all very familiar with. So he's got a lot of connections out here.
Yeah, it's interesting to see Arizona. I think they're going to take it home as well. I like what Sean Miller has done out there as coach. He really has it rolling in the desert out in Tucson. Going and looking at the SEC now, the Southeastern Conference, a lot of people are saying it's a 2-team race between the Florida Gators and the Kentucky Wildcats. Is that true, gentlemen, or is there a third team or possibly a fourth team that could enter the mix?
No way, and that's because these two teams aren't just, teams you throw under the rug halfway through the season, teams you forget about. These teams are ranked at the top of the nation, Kentucky being number 1, Florida being number 7 in the preseason. It's definitely a 2-team race there, like all the other conferences that we mentioned. There's only a few teams that could take it, and Kentucky and Florida aren't going to be challenged by many, at least.
if there's anyone that can challenge Kentucky or Florida, it's Georgia, who finished 12-6 last year in the conference.
Georgia, this ain't
But
football.
I know, that's a football school, but they do their thing in basketball too, just a little bit. And the reason I say that is because of the core group that they have. They have a lot of veterans that are coming back, juniors and seniors, and that's what you look for in a winning basketball team. If you have that senior leadership and they know that they have been through the trenches together, then you're more than likely going to be able to compete. But I don't think that they can get it done.
This is undoubtedly a two-team race. I mean, Kentucky has the best recruiting class.
Yes.
They have
Again.
the most talent, you could arguably, in the country right now. They're ranked #1 team. Florida's bringing back Michael Frazier, Casey Hill, who were big parts, and another player who's getting very hyped up. That'll be my player to watch, but you guys got to wait to hear that. I can't reveal it yet.
Nice tease, Vaughn. Very nice tease. So let's go around the horn here and talk about players to watch and who will end up being the champion of the Southeastern Conference.
I'm going to mention somebody that Vaughn talked about very briefly there, and that's Michael Frazier, a junior at Florida. He's going to have to be a leader on this team. They lost Patrick Young, Scotty Wilbekin, so many players, Casey Prather. They lost several players. So Michael Frazier's going to have to step up for them. He averaged 12.4 points per game last year. It only gets better from there. This team doesn't have many seniors. Vaughn, we talked about this off the set. 2 seniors that aren't really going to get much playing time. One of them, Billy Donovan's son, their head coach. So Michael Frazier's going to have to be a leader on this team in order for them to make noise. I don't think they're going to be able to make enough noise to overcome Kentucky, a team that returned plenty of players, 2 of them being the twins, Aaron and Andrew Harrison. A lot of people thought those 2 were going to go to the NBA, but they stayed. And I think that's a huge reason why they're ranked #1. They also get back Willie Cauley-Stein, Dakari Johnson, arguably the best big man duo in all of college basketball. And they're ranked #1 for a reason. I think they're easily going to win the SEC this year. Not easily, but they're going to win.
My player to watch is an incoming freshman, actually, and that's Trey Lyles. Now, he was the #6 overall player in this year's recruiting class, and he's up at Kentucky right now. And he's a center. Now, he's lengthy, kind of like how Anthony Davis was, but he gets boards, kind of how DeMarcus Cousins did, I should say. So he has some big shoes to fill because, you know, when they bring in those players, they one and done, and they're expected really to contribute heavy in that 1 year. Not just on the court, but also in the classroom. He's a smart kid. So, and Kentucky, just for the simple fact that they continue to reload. It is amazing how Calipari,
man.
he doesn't fight the system how many coaches do. He knows what he's going to get. Come in, come out, see you at the draft.
Yep.
Exactly, but I like Chris Walker of Florida. Now, this guy was highly recruited out of high school last year. He got a lot of trouble in the offseason, didn't play much last year because of that, and the team was so deep. But this year they hyped him up a lot. He's going to be that probably starting small forward, and this guy can jump. This guy is athletic. He's going to make some plays for them, and I can't wait to see what he's capable of. And when it comes to the team that's the best, we're all in agreement that the Wildcats are undoubtedly the best. I mean, as you touched on, they brought 4 starters back, and they normally don't do that. They always come in with new players every single year, and now they're bringing back players. I mean, this team might not even lose 2 or 3 games this year. They might be that good, so I like the Wildcats.
When Calipari puts 7 top-ranked freshmen on one team, only so many of them can prove that they're NBA ready, so he's going to start to get some of those guys back for their sophomore seasons.
Well, a little off-season nugget regarding all those players on Kentucky, highly recruited players. Coach Calipari has been paying close attention to a Division III team called John Carroll University out of Cleveland. And what John Carroll does is they rotate their players in waves, 5-person substitutions every 3 to 4 minutes. And Calipari has talked about doing that this season with Kentucky, implementing the team in waves and substitutions. So it will be interesting to see if they actually do implement that theory and philosophy moving forward in conference play. But now, we come time to make our money, fellas, and see just exactly how good we are at knowing NCAA basketball. We're going to start off first. Who is going to be the James Naismith Award winner for the best player in college basketball?
I think it's definitely going to be Frank Kaminsky, who we mentioned a lot earlier. He's the catalyst of that Wisconsin team. He's been that since last season when he kind of emerged onto the scene out of nowhere, should I say. He's a 7-footer. You don't see many of those nowadays. You have that athletic center who's maybe like 6'9" to 6'11". Kaminsky's a true center. I think that he is going to be the third of only 3 seniors to have won the Naismith Award in the last 10 years. I think Kaminsky's going to win that award.
I'm going to go with the junior. And we talked about Kentucky, and we talked about Louisville, Montrezl Harrell. Now, he's one of only 3 players on that Louisville team that has actually played championship basketball. He's one of those that are left over from the Peyton Siva and Russ Smith era. Now, he's an inside force. Everybody knows that. He grabs those boards, gets those blocks, and posts his will on opponents. You gotta watch out. And especially being in that new conference in the ACC, he's gonna want to prove himself. So watch out for Montrez.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here. Now, Kyle, you said your man was a 3rd senior. I'm going the 3rd freshman ever to win the world, and Jahlil Okafor of Duke. Now, the reason why I say this, obviously he's the best freshman coming in. Obviously he's NBA ready. But even his coach, who always has guys come back, said he's going to be a one-and-done player. He knows that he has something special, and I believe in the hype in this guy. But I do like Frank Kaminsky a lot, and that was going to be my pick. But I have faith in Okafor, and I think he's going to be the next big thing.
It's interesting when we talked all night tonight about players to watch in each conference and now our players of the year. How many of them were seniors? Not very many. Yeah. So it speaks to the turnover in NCAA college basketball every year with these hyped freshmen coming in, and it's almost a shock when they stay for a sophomore year. So it'll be interesting to see if one of those players rises to the top or if it's somebody that right now we don't even know is out there on the radar. So it'll be interesting to see how the season develops. Now, time to butter your bread, fellas. Who is going to be the NCAA champion come April after the end of March Madness?
I'm going to pick a team that I did not think was going to win their conference, and that's Duke. The reason I say that is because they've got a lot of freshmen. You see Mike Krzyzewski now playing the role that Calipari is, picking up players who are in and out. One-year wonders at Duke. He's going to send them off to the NBA. He's got Justice Winslow, Tyus Jones, Jahlil Okafor. I think those 3 guys are going to take a little while to blend together, especially with Quinn Cook. He's probably going to try and be the leader on a team that he's not the best player on. So I think it's going to take a little while for them to gel, but come tournament time, they're going to be ready to go. You saw what Kentucky did last year, a very rough regular season. Once they entered the tournament, they clicked. Things were ready to go. I think Duke's going to do the same thing this year. I think that Duke is going to win their first national championship in a little while now.
Yeah, it's been about 4 years.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Kentucky for that simple reason of that reload factor. Now, like you had said, the Harrison twins have come back, and they have those players that have played in that national championship last year. They tasted it. So close. And now they bring in another wave how they're used to. That's all I can say about Kentucky. There's nothing left more to say.
It's up for grabs this year.
Yeah.
It's up for grabs this year.
Well, guys, when I think about a championship caliber team, I think of 3 things. Think of chemistry, leadership, and defense. And the Wisconsin Badgers have all 3 of those. And I think that they have the best chance to win this year. But at the same time, There's teams like Kentucky, as you mentioned, who just have much more talent than Wisconsin. But I believe in the fact that a team, once you come back together and you all come back because you know there's one thing you want. I think the Badgers know what they want. They want that championship. They were so close last year, and I think
Lost to Kentucky.
Yeah, and I think they're going to get it this year. I've high hopes for them.
It'll be interesting to see, and remember, there's always that one or two teams that make that deep, unexpected run in the NCAA tournament, and they can come from any conference, as we have seen before. So thank you for staying tuned for part 2 of our NCAA college basketball preview with our distinguished panel of experts, Kyle Condor, William Gaucher, and Von Dalzell. Stay tuned here on The Big Hit. Red Zone Recap is up next, where we go over the weekend's action from the NFL gridiron.
Success. We see it every day. Hundreds of majors and programs, bachelor's degrees to PhDs, small classes, internationally known faculty who are committed to your success. Real-world experiences to guide you on your career and life path. An alumni network 120,000 strong. I'm IUP President Mike Driscoll. Visit us. Find your success at Indiana University of Pennsylvania.
Welcome back to The Big Hit. Now it's time to take a look around the week that was in NFL action in the segment we like to call Red Zone Recap. With Sean Fritz and Isaac Mohammed, I am Eric Kormos. Fellas, we're going to start in Green Bay, Wisconsin at Lambeau Field. Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers threw for 6 first-half touchdowns as the Packers absolutely humiliated their rival Chicago Bears 55-14 on Sunday Night Football. Gentlemen, is Aaron Rodgers the MVP of the NFL through the first 10 weeks of the season?
I'd like to think that he could definitely be in consideration. Obviously, the numbers he's put up are very impressive. Completion percentage of 67%, touchdown interception ratio of 25-3, very impressive, over 2,400 yards passing. I think he definitely has to be considered in the race for the MVP of the National Football League. But you also got to look at guys like Andrew Luck as well. Peyton Manning always in there. DeMarco Murray's having an outstanding year. Defensively, J.J. Watt. I think there's a lot of guys that you could definitely put in this category right now. I think Rodgers is definitely one of the top guys as you look at him, one of the best quarterbacks in football. But I think we're definitely going to find out in the next coming weeks because it's starting to get crunch time in the NFL. Teams are going to start playing. Defenses are going to step up. Offenses are going to have to step up, so we're definitely going to see.
Yeah, to me, I believe that the MVP of the league could be a few players. It could be J.J. Watt, who has 8.5 sacks this year. Could be Peyton Manning, who has 29 touchdowns. Could be Aaron Rodgers, who has a quarterback rating of 120. Or it could be DeMarco Murray, who's averaging 123 yards a game. But to me, I believe it's Aaron Rodgers. He's the most efficient. He has the highest quarterback rating at 120. And I just think that he's the best suited to win the MVP.
All right. Is definitely in the contention, no doubt about it. After 6 first-half touchdowns, anybody's going to be mentioned alongside the MVP talk. We go down now to New Orleans, where a controversial ending to that football game versus San Francisco 49ers. Drew Brees had completed what looked to be a 47-yard touchdown pass to tight end Jimmy Graham at the end of regulation, only to have it nullified by an offensive pass interference call on the Saints tight end. So, gentlemen, did you agree with the call or not? And do the officials have too much control in the outcome of games in the NFL?
Personally, I did not agree with the call. I thought it was, very ticky-tacky. I don't think you can make a call like that at a crucial point in the game, like it was. Question comes up, do the officials have too much control? I think in ways they do. I know, there's been a lot of advancements in replay. But at the same time, it is all part of the game. That's how the game goes. Sometimes calls are going to go your way, sometimes they're not. I think the key is to success in this league is how you rebound from whatever adversities that you're going to face as a football team. So we'll see how New Orleans can bounce back from this. I think that they're going to bounce back just fine. I think like one of the players said, they're a scary 4-5 right now. So I think once they start getting things going on a more consistent basis, I think that they're going to bounce back from this type of call.
Yeah, I do agree with the call a little bit just because he pushed them. But other than that, I don't think they should call it that late in the game because that's a crucial moment, and that's how they lost basically. Also, And the issue with the referees, I believe the referees do control the game too much. They are trying to turn it into flag football. Football is naturally a vicious game. I don't think they should have that much control over these illegal contacts or pass interferences, especially in crucial parts in the game. I just personally don't believe that football should be turning this soft.
Yeah, it's a difficult situation for the officials to be in because they're going to make 50% of the people happy and 50% are going to be very unhappy with them. So it's a tough spot, but what it comes down to, really, both teams need to look at it and say they cannot put themselves in a position at the end of the game to have to rely on an official's call one way or the other to decide who wins that football game. Moving into the AFC, we take a look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, who saw their 3-game win streak come to a crashing halt at the hands of the 2-8 New York Jets with a 20-13 loss. With that defeat, the Steelers fall into second place in the AFC North, leaving the Cleveland Browns in sole possession of first place for the first time since 1995. So, gentlemen, why is it that the Steelers always seem to play down to the level of their opponents?
I think, you look at this game, and obviously I was on a couple weeks ago, I said that the Baltimore game was, the most crucial of the year, if not the most crucial, one of the most crucial. And I think, you look at this game and you think, let down. And I think that's exactly what happened. Pittsburgh came out, I don't know if, what was going on, but I felt that, they had a sense that they were in control of their season, and, rightfully so. They were playing outstanding football the previous couple of weeks. And I think a lot of people a lot of talk was going around that, Pittsburgh gets through Baltimore, which was a huge game, that they would just cruise by up until their bye week, which is going to be the following week from this one, with the Jets and at Tennessee and against Tennessee. So I think it was just a letdown game. I think Pittsburgh's definitely going to have to rebound, and they're going to have to figure something out on, that these are professional athletes that they're playing against, professional football players, and you can't take teams lightly like this, especially when you're in a tight race like they are in the AFC North, which is the best division of football right now.
Right. I believe that the Steelers lost because of one reason. I don't think they prepared right for the game. When they have a group of older guys like that, they think they can just run in there and just win the game when they want, because it's just a bunch of rookies and younger guys, and they figured they had a more experience, so they just think that it would be easier for them. And it wasn't the case, because Michael Vick played terrific, and it was just a bad game for them. They need to prepare better.
There's 2 questionable losses for the Steelers this year to lower-end opponents, the Jets. But remember, they also lost at home to a winless Tampa Bay Bucks team. So something they need to think about as they move forward this season and opportunities that may have been lost. Looking at injuries this past weekend, a crucial one in the NFC West. The Arizona Cardinals are the lone team in the NFL right now with a 1-loss record. However, their starting quarterback, Carson Palmer, went down, torn ACL in his left knee. Who do you think now becomes the best team in the NFL? Is it still the Cardinals, or is that injury too much for them to overcome?
I personally think it's going to be too much, and to begin with, I don't think that they were the best team in football. Regardless of their record, 8-1, you can't take nothing away from them. But at the same time, I don't think that they were the best team in the National Football League. I think right now the best team in the NFL, they didn't play this week, but the New England Patriots have to be the best team in football. I feel like they're clicking on all cylinders right now, and I think it's going to be, the sky's the limit for them from here on out. I think, they control their own destiny. They've got another tough one this week on Sunday night against the Indianapolis Colts. So I think they definitely control their own destiny. I think if they can continue to click and get everybody meshing together, I think Tom Brady, he's an elite quarterback in the National Football League. He makes everybody around him better. I think he continues to do so, and I think that they definitely have to be a Super Bowl contender right now. I think that and I definitely think that they're the best team in the National Football League right now.
To me, the best team in the NFL has to be either the Packers or the New England Patriots or the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, these teams, they are all diverse, and they know how to get the ball out. Chip Kelly's offense is certified for any type of quarterback to go in there and do what they want. It's an easy system for them to learn in. The Patriots have Gronk back, and he has been playing great football lately, and he can't be stopped right now. Also, the Packers have the #1 quarterback in the league, and Aaron Rodgers, who's very efficient, and he's going to bring his team pretty far, and it depends on his game. Sunday against the Eagles to see who's really the best team.
Yeah, everybody's talking about these undefeated or not undefeated teams with teams like the Patriots and the Colts, for instance. However, I think you need to look also at the Seattle Seahawks, who are coming on strong, and they're not out of this NFC West, especially now with that injury to Carson Palmer. They're not going to go down easily, and Marshawn Lynch has been playing absolutely fantastic the last few weeks. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for your time this evening. We're going to move on now next in the show to the Crimson Huddle, looking at the disappointing weekend that was for IUP football and their loss to Gannon.
Listen, all I'm saying is LeBron James is better than Michael
Jordan. Why did everybody get so quiet?
And welcome back to the Big Hit. Now it's time to go inside the Crimson Huddle and recap what was a disappointing weekend for IUP football. Alongside Dakota London and Dimitri George, I am Eric Kormos. And gentlemen, the Crimson Hawks are now a 6-4 football team after a 31-21 loss on the road at Gannon. This is the most losses in the Curt Cignetti era since he took over in 2011. What is wrong with this football team?
Well, there's a couple of factors that was wrong with them. For one, they're naturally just a very young team. They had 10 freshmen or 10 redshirt freshmen starting this year. That's a lot for a team. They also lost 9 players on offense and 6 players on defense from last year. That's 15 players. And they were still expected to be number 1 in the PSAC West. That's a lot of expectations for a very young team. So, I mean, it's just the youth. If you see them play, they're not very disciplined sometimes, and that's a lack of leadership. Not necessarily from Cignetti himself, but because there are no senior leaders. If you think about it, when he was hired as coach, they only had 2 actual seniors, like two freshmen from his class that he actually recruited. Everyone else was transfer seniors or transferred eventually the year following. So they don't have that much senior leadership. They're a young team. It's going to take some time. So it's not to be expected. You know, they still had high expectations, but you got to be realistic sometimes when you're talking about a team that's that young.
I think you make a great point. They are a very young team. You look at their defense, they also dealt with a lot of injuries. Jay Watkins has missed the entire year. Dorian Lane and Berdal have been in and out of the lineup, but they have had guys like Kevin Clark and Aquino Robinson, I think, have played really well throughout the season. And you look at the quarterback position with Chase Hedges, I think there's been too many turnovers. And quite frankly, IUP this year, being a young team, they're just not good enough to overcome the amount of turnovers they have caused on offense. Because you look at Chase Hedges, I think he's up to total to 14 interceptions, I think, for the year. That's just not going to get it done. You know, this team is about running the football, and I'm looking at some of his numbers for some of the games this year. He's thrown over the ball for over 30 times a game for a good point of the schedule. And to me, that's not a Curt Cignetti coach football team. They have Luigi Listabrenza, Darian Bradley, Izzy Green, Chris Temple, guys that can run the ball, and that's really what they've been built on since Cignetti's been here. And unfortunately for them, it just hasn't clicked this year. I mean, 6-4 it's definitely an underachieving year. But I guess when you look at the young guys and the development of them, I think when you look down the road, when these young guys become the juniors and the seniors and the leaders of this football team, I think it'll end up paying off in the end, obviously with other recruits that come in. So young team, too many turnovers on the offensive side of the ball lead to a 6-4 record.
And you said it. You made a good point. You know, they're really young, and running the football is their forte, and they got away from that. And, you know, football is a copycat league no matter if it's professionally or if it's collegiate. So once a team realizes that if you force them to pass, that's not their thing, everyone started to
get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, out of the comfort zone.
And you don't, they're not a Seton Hill team that came in here, threw the ball almost every down, or Shippensburg from a couple of years ago with Zach Zulia. They're not that kind of team. That's not how they're built. Yeah. They're built to run the football and play good defense, and unfortunately that just hasn't worked out for them this year.
Yeah, the defense has been excellent all season, but going back to what you talked about, Dimitri, quarterback Chase Hazlitt, he has 14 interceptions on the season after he had 2 at Gannon this past weekend. And a couple of those this year have been very crucial in the red zone, costing the team points. His 14 interceptions are the most for a quarterback since Cignetti took over. Will he be the starting quarterback in 2015?
Well, if you're just talking about for the next game, we talked to Coach Eddie today. Eddie Stockett's going to make the start this Saturday. And I think if Eddie plays a really good game, that could cause some complications regarding who's going to be the starting quarterback next year. I do believe that Eddie brings a lot more energy to that team. Even when we called the game a couple weeks ago against Clarion, Eddie breaks the pocket, runs up the middle, he runs over a linebacker. You just see the team get hyped because they're not used to seeing that type of energy and that type of, ferociousness from their quarterback. He has a lot of confidence, and I think he may be the missing part of that offense. They need some sort of toughness, not only from the running backs, but from the quarterback position. It's really hard to play with a quarterback that gets a little tentative at times. But Eddie's not like that. He's very confident, and you love that toughness that he has. And I think it'll be interesting to see if he comes out and has a really good game against Westchester, what will happen the following year.
Coming into this year was a really nice story. Chase Hazlitt coming in, his father Jim Hazlitt being an IUP alumni, coaching the defense for the Washington Redskins. A really nice story, but unfortunately for Chase Hazlitt, I think that experiment is over. I know Eddie Stockett's starting this weekend, and even I think, in my opinion, if he doesn't even play that great, I still think he is the starter moving forward because it didn't seem to work this year with Chase Hazlitt. He transferred from Illinois, D1 recruit. You're expecting big things. They had Mike Box, who transferred from UConn. So they've had success with transfer quarterbacks. But Chase Hazlitt didn't, for whatever reason, just didn't click this year. Like I said, the turnovers. He's taken a lot of bad sacks as well. I think the Slippy Rock game, he must have knocked him out of good field position countless number of times because of taking the sack. He's got to be able to know when to throw the ball away and just live to play another down and not and then when he doesn't take the sack, he'll force a throw, and it just hasn't worked out, unfortunately, for IUP and Chase Hazlitt. So I think moving forward, he will not be the starting quarterback, whether it's Eddie Stockett or another transfer guy that they bring in, because Logan Weaver left this team back earlier in the season for whatever reason that was. So they've only had two quarterbacks. Fortunately for them, they haven't had any injuries at that position because that could have got interesting. But moving forward, I don't see Chase Hazlitt being the starter.
Yeah, and you make a good point. And I think expectations played a huge part of it, considering who his father was, considering the expectations of how much success the team is going to have this year with him as a quarterback. And if you see, he presses too much. A lot of times he makes throws he shouldn't make, or like you said, he takes sacks that he shouldn't make trying to make a play. And he doesn't let the game come to him. And because of that, he's put himself in a lot of bad situations that's resulted in 14 interceptions and numerous fumbles. So, I'm glad Eddie's getting his opportunity, to play, and I think he might run away with it.
Yeah, there's no doubt that Chase Hazlitt has opened the door to QB controversy this year with his poor play. So it'll be interesting to see what Stockett does this season and in the offseason as well in spring practices and see who is the starting quarterback for IUP next season. You talked earlier, both of you, about exciting underclassmen on the IUP football roster right now. Freshman Walt Pegues against Gannon, 13 catches, 193 yards. Is that a good sign for the Crimson Hawks moving forward?
Oh, absolutely. It's always good to have young guys that come in and make an immediate impact. As Eddie said himself that, he's a really big fan of Walt because Walt comes in, he does his work, he doesn't say much, he doesn't complain, he asks what the coaches can do, he goes out there and he works his butt off. That's a good sign, especially from a player that's so young. So he's one of those players, including with Luigi and Chris, that is going to continue to progress over the years and really become a stamp of this team. And he's looked phenomenal. He had a huge game last week, and I expect so much more from him. And his personality is probably the best thing about him because he's not showy. You think of receivers sometimes, think of somebody that's showy and, always want the camera on them or whatever the case may be. But he just goes out, does his job, plays for his team, and gets back to work.
You were talking about Luigi and guys like that. You can also throw Tristan Davis in there, another young guy who I think has the potential. But I personally believe, I know the offense, you got the guys like DeSico, Carswell, and Luigi, but I personally think Walt Pegues has been their most explosive playmaker on offense throughout the entire season. He's had a punt return. He's run the football. He's caught out of the backfield. He's played a receiver. He's one of those guys where you can put him anywhere on the football field, and he makes plays. And what you want to do is you want to get the ball in his hands, let him do what he does best, and that's make people miss in the open field. And he's just so versatile. Like I said, he can run the football. He can catch the football. He can. If you need him to pick up a blitz, he's shown to be pretty adequate at that as well, which is crucial to play running back at no matter what level you are at. So just Walt Pegues in general, I think is, in my opinion, I'm really excited to see him grow as a football player because I think he has been their best player on offense. Very explosive, very fun to watch. And I can attest to that. Very hard worker and dedicated to his craft. And I definitely see him just keep getting better and better as his years come.
There's been no doubt that this has been a disappointing season for IUP. High expectations coming into the year, now looking at a 6-4 record. And they welcome in a Westchester team who is ranked number 12 in the country and has one loss on the season, and that was to Eastern Division champion Bloomsburg, who now sits at number 6 in the Division II ranking. So looking at the expectations that IUP had coming into this season, hoping to play in that PSAC championship game this week, instead they're welcoming in Westchester. What does this game mean, if anything, for the football program to end the season?
Well, Coach Signetti said it best. He said it means to finish. When it comes to athletics, you have to finish. Now, Westchester is a really good team. They're coming in with a 9-1 record, and this is important for them, too, in terms of seeding. So it would be a good test for IUP and a good way to, finish out the season to get an idea of where you are as a team, especially to see what the attitude is of your players. Are they going to fold? Are they not going to, put that much effort in it because they know the game doesn't mean as much? Or are they going to try to play hard because they're playing against an opponent that a lot of people consider to be much better than them? So it'll be interesting to see. And I would hope that it's a good game. I do believe that Westchester is the better team than them. Their offensive line averages 314 pounds. That'll be a good test for a defensive line that has probably been the most consistent group on this team thus far this year. So I look forward to the matchup. I'll be calling that game with my good man Josh Hill. So, it'll be an interesting game to see, but I just want to see the fight. If you see the fight of the team, that's just another bonus to look forward to next season.
I was going to be honest, this game really doesn't mean much, if at all, anything for IUP in terms of wins and losses. This is more about, again, seeing what players are really continuing to work and continue to finish out the season strong. But if you're looking at Westchester, I think a lot of pressure is on them. IUP has nothing to play for, and it's one of those things where IUP could play a little spoiler, kind of affect the seedings. If Westchester comes in and says, "Oh, we're playing 6-4 IUP, they've got stock is starting," we'll just be able to walk in the stadium and just win. You've seen that time and time again in professional and college football, where any given Saturday, Sunday, Thursday, Monday, whatever it is, anything could happen. And I just think it's a good opportunity for IUP just to play relaxed, poised, because honestly, there is really nothing to play for them. There's no playoffs for them, unfortunately, this year. So I just look for them to play like relaxed, poised, free. Just kind of just go out there and do their job and just play IUP football, and whatever happens, happens. And that's the kind of mindset I think they're going into it. I mean, obviously they're harping on the team that we're going to win, we want to win, we want to do this, but ultimately I think the guys are going to be a lot more relaxed and just play free and just play like as if it's just any other game.
There's no doubt Westchester is going to come into this football game fired up as the Golden Rams look to prepare for that first-round playoff berth in their Division II football playoffs. Now it is time to break the Crimson Huddle. For Dakota London and Dimitri George, I am Eric Kormos, and thank you for spending your evening with us here on The Big Hit. Make sure you tune in next week as we recap the weekend that was in the world of professional and collegiate sports.